I want to acknowledge first I'm going down the rabbit hole. Newsweek is reporting that Tucker Carlson has launched his show on Russian state television. Now, in fact, it's true. Tucker Carlson's program is now on Russian television. I don't know why it's on Russian television. And in fact, there are questions as to how this happened, what happened to get it there, all sorts of questions about Tucker Carlson being on Russian television. But, he's headed down this road over the last little while of being very weirdly pro-Russia, if you ask me, frankly. Just oddly like really into defenses of Russia, if you will. And I don't quite understand what's going on here with Tucker Carlson and Russia. He seems to have found the United States to be so distasteful that he has started peddling some level of pro-Russia lines. I mean, his defense of the Russian communist-built subway system was kind of a bridge too far for me, knowing that the way it was built was essentially prisoners building this. They were foreigners captured by the Soviets, and now suddenly you got his show, and it's showing up on Russian state television. Yeah, you can barely hear it, but that is, yes, Tucker Carlson's show on Russian state television. Newsweek reported, and Newsweek is back, and Newsweek, it's not quite the Newsweek that it once was, but they're running a story, and they're saying the CEO of Tucker Carlson's network has rejected claims in Russian state media that the former Fox News anchor has done a deal for a show to appear on Russian television. The claim appears to have originated with the program Tucker, which is broadcast on Russia 24, but comprises old episodes of Carlson's shows taken from X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube, complete with a Russian voiceover. The first episode and other clips from previous months are now available online, according to the Russian state newspaper. On the website smoltrum.ru, where programs shown on Russian state channels can be viewed, is an episode introduced by Carlson dated May 18th and dubbed into Russian. The website also hosts other clips from previous months of interviews Carlson has conducted. Independent news outlet Astra confirmed the program features Russian language dubbing of Carlson's American shows and is not original content for Russian viewers. In September 2023, Russia 24 aired a trailer for a show featuring Carlson without clarifying when it would be broadcast. Carlson said he knew nothing about it. Now, Neil Patel, the CEO of the Tucker Carlson Network, denies the media claims that the airing of the episode was a joint project. The Tucker Carlson Network has not done any deals with state media in any country. Whoever is currently pretending to be the old Newsweek brand would know if they checked with us before printing like news companies are supposed to do. Newsweek reached out to the Tucker Carlson Network and others, and we'll update with any further comment. Now, let me see if I can boost this audio just a little bit so you can hear this. This is what's airing on Russian state television, and yeah, it's kind of odd.
Если вы живете в определенных частях этой страны, особенно в сельской местности, вы знаете людей, которые болеют.
That is Tucker Carlson's face talking with a Russian narrator over it. Now, whether Tucker Carlson did a deal with Russia or not, it's been really clear over the past number of months that Tucker Carlson seems to be infatuated with the Russians. Tucker Carlson interviewed Vladimir Putin in this odd interview. He sniffed the Russian bread and wanted to extol the wonders of the Russian grocery store. But there's a larger issue that goes beyond Tucker Carlson. There's something dementedly broken with parts of the right. And I'm not sure what broke, because here's the thing. I hear all the time that we gotta fight and we gotta take stuff back from the left. We've got to fight back. I remember distinctly Donald John Trump winning the presidency and maintaining hold on Congress for 2 of 4 years. Donald Trump won in 2016. And Republicans held the United States Congress. Mitch McConnell was the Senate leader. Paul Ryan was the House Speaker. Republicans won. And Donald Trump held the presidency for 4 years. He was not ousted. He was not convicted of a crime. He was there for 4 years. He held and controlled the regulatory state and the bureaucracy for 4 years. And yet you've got all these people on the right say, we got to fight. We got to be as nasty to the left as the left was to us. We got to take our country back. Nate Fisher is a guy down in Texas. I don't know him, but he started something called the American Reformer, and he's essentially trying to weave some level of Christian nationalism of some such into this. It's a very weird thing. And he tweeted, "I understand nostalgia for the Constitution or longing to restore the principles the founders established. But if you will not accept the reality that this is long gone, if you judge others based on fidelity to a set of principles, in quotes, that govern no one, then you are a fool." He writes this under our current constitutional order, where we have a Supreme Court that functions. We have a Congress that is there. We're in the middle of a presidential election cycle. The reality that our Constitution is long gone. Look, I think we have problems in this country, but if the Constitution is long gone, why are we having an election? And in fact, what I would note is that a lot of these guys on this new right are engaged in the same sort of Marxist revolutionary thought that the left is engaged in. And I use Marxism intentionally here because I think those of you who are listening right now who are conservatives, you need to understand that there is a strain of Marxism that exists on the left and the right. And that's what this is. One of the guys who writes for Nate Fisher's publication, The American Reformer, actually wrote something very notable, I think, today. And Carl Truman, the theologian, calls the guy out for what he did. It's a very bizarre statement. Now, we don't need to dive into theology here, but you need to listen to what this guy, his name is Ben Crenshaw, what he wrote. Politically active American Christians who defy the enemies of God and wage war against evil, and who necessarily employ crude memes, subterfuge, and even deception towards these ends, will likewise be commended for their faith. In other words, crudity, duplicity, and dishonesty are all justified in America in 2024 because it is analogous to how the Israelites took Jericho. And it's worse, they're arguing it's worse than first century Rome when Christians were being nailed to crosses and set on fire. That's their argument, that we're allowed now in the 21st century to behave in ways that the apostles themselves rejected at a time they were being physically tortured and executed. Because somehow or another, America now is worse than Rome or the Canaanite pagan territories the Israelites were invading, that America is worse. There's a profound American hatred in this. But wait, it gets better. Orrin Cass is a name you're going to hear a lot about from some of these people on the right. Orrin Cass admits he grew up a liberal. Orrin Cass runs a group, I think it's called American Compass. I think that's his group. There are several of these out there. You know what Orrin Cass is doing? He's taking money from the left. He's taking money from left-wing organizations, and he's now insisting that actually free market economics isn't a big thing on the right, and actually the right is big on unionization. Now, this is notable because in Alabama last week, if you ever drive through Alabama on I-20 near Birmingham, there's a massive Mercedes plant. There's a massive facility that builds Mercedes-Benz cars. And that plant the workers there overwhelmingly rejected unionization. It's the second time in 2 weeks auto workers have rejected unionization. And Orrin Cass actually believes in unionization, that unions are good. As people on the right are rejecting them, as the blue-collar voters that Orrin Cass claims to want to connect to are rejecting unionization, he thinks actually these left-wing politics are good. And it's no coincidence, and this is the connecting institution here. Pay attention to this. His organization is being funded by the left. Some of the same funders who fund the Bulwark, the left-wing website, they're funding his project. And his whole claim is that actually left-wing economic ideas are conservative. So you have these guys on the right now who believe that the Russians are the good guys. You have these guys on the right now who believe that Christians in the public square can lie, engage in duplicity, and they don't have to love their neighbor because that's weak. You have left-wing funders funding right-wing startups claiming that left-wing economics are somehow conservative. People have lost their damn minds. You got Tucker Carlson having a show on a Russian entity, and then once the outrage came out, I was like, we didn't conduct a deal. Well, look at the record. Of course people believed it because look how pro-Russia you've been in the last number of months. Something broke with these guys on the right. It's a highly online mentality, and it doesn't work in the real world where actually, most Christians know you got to love your neighbor. Most conservatives understand free market economics is good. All of these people, and they can't be honest about people's positions. They've got to lie about people's positions. Our country has problems. Our country has real fundamental problems. But one of the biggest problems, and it's on the left and the right, is a rejection of truth and the willingness to embrace lies, to advance narratives, and to say, well, we're doing it because that's what the other side does. We don't have to be like the other side. This is going to end badly for the right as a movement. It's going to end badly if we don't reject the ways of the left, because what we're ultimately doing, well, not we and maybe not you, but what these guys are doing is they're acknowledging the left is in charge. They're saying the left is in charge more than the left is. I mean, after all, Trump was president for 4 years. We actually won that election. The Republicans held on to Congress for 2 of those 4 years. Republicans have actually done a pretty good job at the state level. Republicans control a majority of the state legislative seats in America, and yet somehow we're the victims. And so because we're victims, we get to lie now. We get to engage just like the Marxist left does. It's a Marxism that's invaded the right. It's not conservative. It's not right-wing. And it's not very American. You're allowing the European antics of the Marxists that have pervaded the left to pervade the right, and it ends badly for everybody, you and me included, unless we stand up to this nonsense. Conservatism and principles mean something. But the idea that you can use the Bible to justify being nasty to people and lying to people and being ruthless to people is absurd on its face. And the idea that the Russians are the good guys is absurd on its face. And the idea that free market economics is anathema to the right is absurd on its face. And that's why they're all going to lose, because of the absurdity on its face of all these lies they're saying. And yet too many people on the right are going off the cliff with these guys. Maybe they'll stay there at least.